Hello, everyone. My name is Malik L, personal trainer, also known by as Malik L Train, host of Health Awareness Talk for Surbroadcast.com. And today I have Mr. Tom Woloshyn. He's the president of Vita Gym Enterprises and also the author of three good books: The Complete Master Cleanse, Beyond the Master Cleanse, and also the Master Cleanse, also contributions for the Master Cleanse experience. Hello, Tom. How you doing?
Hi, Malik. Doing very well, thank you.
Okay. Well, 2015 is about to roll around, and everybody is about to make these New Year's resolutions on losing weight. Okay, and also for being healthy. So one of the basic things I want to focus on for the show today is show them just a good way for them to clean their bodies out in order to help to lose weight, to stay healthy, and affordable modalities that they can use for themselves on a daily basis in order to reach their goals as well. Now, by looking at your information and things, I found out that a lot of these things that you teach could help people with that. As a matter of fact, if people out there, if you check on Google and we're going today, it's called we're doing something called the Master Cleanse Diet, also aka also known as the Lemonade Diet. So if you put in the Master Cleanse Diet on your Google, and I like this because of personal trainer, I'm always interested in results. Master Cleanse before and after pictures. What you're going to see is something very amazing. You will see a lot of people look like almost like totally different people. Okay, now you see this girl, she looks like she done dropped about 10 years, and everybody know for Beyonce, she looked like she done dropped 10 to 15 years off that. Tom, how are these people doing this?
Well, they're doing the Master Cleanse or the Lemonade Diet, which is a diet specifically to detox or cleanse the body. A side effect of that is weight loss. Sometimes the body holds on a lot of extra weight, and even particularly water buildup in the body, is to sort of dilute that toxicity, and that toxicity will be accumulated as an acid buildup. And our bodies are supposed to be slightly alkaline. And when we have a diet that involves a lot of acid foods like processed foods, white flour, white sugar, meat, dairy products, all grains, all dried beans, things like that, all of those are acid foods. And when we consume them in abundance, our body becomes acidified in a sense. And that acid is kind of like an accumulating rust in the body. And the body then tries to cope with it in various ways. And one way is to accumulate water to dilute it. Another way is to build up mucus to try and stick to it and glue it together, and then hopefully eliminate it. But lots of times people can accumulate pounds and pounds of mucus. I used to eat meat 2 or 3 times a day and drank a quart of milk a day. And I did the Master Cleanse for 10 days and I lost 9 pounds. About half of it was just mucus going down the toilet. It was all of this mucus buildup that accumulated through my digestive system. And I went from having a bowel movement every 2 to 3 days to now having regular bowel movements every day. I slept better. I was much more calm and relaxed, just healthier in just about each and every way you can imagine. And this is someone who is, doing the cleanse to try and prove it could not work.
Exactly.
I thought it was ridiculous that it would could help the body heal itself.
Super. Yeah, I remember in your VitaFlex video, one of the things that you're saying is that you did a 10-day on the dare with your roommate, and you found out after 10 days that you was actually feeling pretty good, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. And the second part that got me is that you, in your VitaFlex videos, that you talked about the guy who had leukemia, and he was just sick and tired of just all the treatments, and you just made a suggestion about doing the master cleanse along with the other modalities I try to tell people with, and that's the Vitaflex and also for the color therapy and things. And after 28 days, he went back to the hospital and he didn't have leukemia anymore.
Yes, and actually that was not the first person. The first person that I worked with, not even directly, was one of my friend's girlfriends, and she had leukemia. And he was skeptical, so he did the master cleanse himself for 40 days in a row because he didn't want to risk her health or her life doing the cleanse. And he did 40 days in a row, and then he went to his doctor. They did blood work. They did a bunch of tests. He then went to a specialized clinic where they tested his strength, his flexibility, his endurance, quite a strenuous physical fitness examination. And he scored average to above average in all of his tests, medical and physical. So he put her on the cleanse, and she did 10 days. Now, the other thing she used was a color lamp to do color therapy. And she was going to the cancer clinic every day and having her blood tested. And on the 10th day, her blood was normalized.
Wow.
Now you know, more recently, you know who, I haven't told you this, but Wayne Dyer had an acute form of leukemia, an incurable. And a little over 2 years ago, I met him, and what I did was he did a talk, and at the end of his talk, I went to the front of the stage, and I lifted my book up, and I said, as I lifted it up, he walked over to sign it. He was thinking that it was his book, and he was going to put his name on it. And I said, Wayne, that's not your book, it's my book. I'm giving you this book, and now it's your book. And I said, in there's a diet that people have done and cured their leukemia. And so he said, really? And we talked a little bit. And so I went to his room later that afternoon and talked to him about the diet, gave him the book, and he went back to Hawaii and did 20 days in a row. And if you hear him talk now, he'll say his leukemia is gone. And when I met him, he was actually quite sick. He could barely walk at that time. He was in so much pain.
Wow.
And so it was, what I was taught in my workshop is that, leukemia is generally gone in 10 days. And that's mostly what I've seen when people have done it. I've known other people with various types of cancer that have done it and reversed their cancer. I have a client and an actually close friend now, in a sense, who had colon cancer and 4th stage, and it's over 9 years now since that, and she's fine. Now, she did, when I went to Spain to treat her, she did 42 days in a row, and then she did 10 days a month, and then about 6 months later did 42 days in a row, and then 10 days a month, and about 3 months after that did another 42 days in a row. So she ended up doing about 160 or 70 days of the master cleanse in 1 year. And she does it now maybe 3 or 4 times a year. That's what I recommend to people, is that once you've got your body healthy, you can cut back. You don't have to do it, year round. But I don't know if I told you, there's one of the testimonials in my book. A woman heard me speak in Atlanta, and she went on the cleanse shortly after that and did 372 days in a row. She basically did 1 year in 1 week. And she was running 7 miles a day at the end of the cleanse. And when I saw her after that, her calves, now this woman, her weight went to 115 pounds and then leveled off. She never gained or lost an ounce almost, but her calves were like this. From her running, they were very, very muscular. And you would say, well, how can that be? Because the amount of lemonade she was drinking a day, she may have been at most getting 1 gram of protein a day, yet she had this solid muscle. And so, like, after a year of being on this diet, she was running 7 miles a day. I had to actually talk her into eating again. She didn't want to stop the cleanse.
What would happen if she didn't stop?
I don't know. I've never seen I haven't known anybody to go more than a year. But she was feeling, I was told, and I believe that you get better nutrition on the lemonade diet than when you eat.
That's true. I can believe that.
And the thing is that once you've been on the cleanse for a long enough period of time, when you start to eat better, you can get good, you can get, I'm sure, near the same value in your food if your digestive system is working well. Like as I said, remember when I did the first cleanse, and if I eliminated 4 or 5 pounds of waste from my colon and my digestive system, how well was I absorbing what I was eating? Not very effectively. So.
Okay, that's super. Now, where did the muscle come from that the lady who built her calves and stuff?
From exercising.
Just from the exercising. Interesting.
Well, the thing is what I was also told is that you don't have to eat protein to build muscle, but you have to not smoke, and you can't eat dairy products. And there is a bacteria that will grow in your digestive system that can fix nitrogen from red blood cells, because your red blood cells pick up not just oxygen, they'll pick up various gases, and it'll pick up some nitrogen. And this organism will be able to pick up the nitrogen and build proteins. There is a chemical pathway for this. I don't know what it is, but I was actually telling this story at a massage school, and they had just been learning this in their chemistry class the day before. And they said, remember we were talking about this particular molecule, and when you add a nitrogen to it, it'll become a protein. And she said, yes, that would, if you can affix a nitrogen to this, your body then will have an easy access to protein. But as I said, you have to be, you can't smoke, and you can't be eating dairy products.
Got it. No smoke, no milk.
And be reasonably healthy. Well, I dedicated my second book to a friend of mine. He was an Afro-American. His name was Robert, and he did martial arts and jiu-jitsu. And I would go to Atlanta and visit the family there, and I hadn't seen him for a year. When I came back and I saw him without a shirt on, and he was just ripped, and he had gained all this weight, but it was muscle, solid muscle. And I said, Robert, what did you do? And he said, excuse me, he said, Tom, I did 28 days of the master cleanse, and I gained 8 pounds of muscle. Like he was, you couldn't pinch a half an inch on, like he was just skin over muscle. There was no fat whatsoever. He was just totally ripped. And that was on 28 days in a row in the cleanse.
Super. How much of the maple syrup was he taking a day?
He was probably just doing 2 tablespoons per glass. So if you're drinking 8 glasses a day of lemonade, will give you 1 cup of maple syrup. Now, when I first started the cleanse, I would often drink 14 or 16 glasses a day. So I was drinking a quart of maple syrup through every 3 days or so. I would consume a whole quart of maple syrup. So I doubt he was consuming that much, but he could have been doing 10, 12 ounces of maple syrup a day. And a lot of people will say, oh, that's a lot of sugar. Well, your body only burns one fuel, and that one fuel is glucose. Now, people say, well, sugar is sugar. No, that's not the case. In fact, there was a study I just saw on the national news last night that if people drink soda, and it's a $61 billion business every year in the United States, and if you drink soda, it actually shortens your life. And what happens is the soda damages the telomeres, or the ends of the chromosomes, so that cells can't properly divide. But they said, interestingly enough, they said that fruit juices don't have the same effect as sugar or soda drinks. And a few years ago, they did some studies on maple syrup and found that it's anti-diabetic and it's anti-cancerous. So here you have a sugar that is anti-cancerous and anti-diabetic, so it's got to indicate that it's generally a much healthier option, or a very healthy option, as opposed to white sugar or any of the number of high fructose syrup from corn and stuff like that. Those things, any kind of processed sugars, I believe, are actually toxic to your body.
Okay, when we're talking about maple syrup, we're talking about grade B and grade C maple syrup?
Well, as I understand, it doesn't really matter which grade you use. They're all good quality. I was initially, by talking to someone who was a maple syrup sort of expert, he said that your grade A has a lower mineral quantity than the B, and B has a lower mineral quality than C. And this is in Canada. Canada has 3 grades. Used to be A, B, and C, and they've changed it. to number 1 light, number 2 medium, and number 2 amber. And it was because the number 1 light was considered to be your best maple syrup because it was the lightest color. And so you used to be able to buy the grade A would sell for $20 a quart, and the grade C for $10 a quart. Well, since the Master Cleanse has become very popular, A or B or C all cost the same price because people are actually buying up the grade C. Now, grade C in Canada is the same as grade B in the U.S. But my supplier, someone from that company, was telling me a newer study said that A, B, or C is very similar in mineral content. But I haven't seen that study, so I can't qualify that statement. But I have done the Master Cleanse with a B and an A, and I still get great results,
And yeah, it'd be lighter on your pocket too, right?
Pardon me?
It's lighter on your pocket too.
Well, no, actually, sometimes grade C will be more expensive than grade A, depending on the year.
Right. So regardless of whatever grade of maple syrup we use, it'll still work.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, super. Also, it's the same cost indication with does it really matter if we use lemon or limes?
No, except the problem is with limes is that people buy unripe limes. If you give me 1 second, I'm going to grab, I have actually a ripe lime. I happened to just buy one the other day. Normally, I'm back. Normally when you're buying limes at the store, they're dark green. Look at the color of this one. It's almost yellow. And that is a ripe lime. Now, you have to be careful. Often they're picked really green, and if they sit for a while, they'll start to get brown spots on them. And when they get brown spots, the juice inside has now gone bitter, and it doesn't taste very good. So you have to get them yellow without the brown spots. And in fact, one of my friends did the Master Cleanse for 2 weeks and used unripe limes and actually made herself sick because they're unripe, there's no enzymes, and it started to bother her stomach. It would be like eating unripe fruit for 2 weeks. How do you think you would feel? Of course, you wouldn't feel good eating, unripe fruit because it's not ready for your body to digest.
All right, so we just safer off just going for the lemons, right?
Yeah. Lemons are generally your best option, but I will buy, if limes are available, I'll buy 2 or 3 of them and hopefully let them ripen up too much. And if I see them starting to develop any brown spots, then I use them right away.
Okay. So the brown spots mean that they're ready, or brown spots mean that they don't take them?
If they have brown spots, don't take them.
Brown spots, don't take them. You heard that, everyone. Okay, we're going to see maple syrup. Any of the maple syrups do. The lemon lime, we're going for the lemon. Let's go back to the martial artist. He was using, you think he was averaging about a cup of maple syrup a day?
Oh, I'm sure at least that, because you use in each drink 1 ounce of maple syrup. And if you have 8 glasses...
Was that 4 tablespoons per glass?
Well, no, it's 2 tablespoons of lemon and 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. And 2 tablespoons are equivalent to 1 ounce.
Okay.
So if you have 8 glasses of lemonade, you will have 8 ounces of maple syrup that day, which is 1 cup. If you drink 12 glasses a day, that's a cup and a half of maple syrup.
Okay, so that's good. All right, so the guy who did the very beginning, who did the 40-day fast on the Master Cleanse,
yeah,
and he did those reports. He found out he was either just as strong, or he was stronger after those 40 days. That's all that he did was just the Master Cleanse diet, right?
Yes, he may have been using the color lamp at the time. I remember he had bought one from me, and he also meditated. And one of the things he said to me was that if he used the color lamp and you use the color purple, purple helps with meditation. He said, I actually can feel a difference when I meditate under purple. So he was probably using the color lamp. Now, he didn't get, I don't believe I gave him any treatments. I can't remember at the time. He was going to university, so he wasn't too flush with money, so he was, actually at the time I wasn't practicing. I would practice. I wouldn't charge people. I probably did treat him, But what I used to do is I would talk to people about the master cleanse, and I'd go, well, I'm thinking of doing it maybe. And I would say to them, well, if you do the master cleanse, I'll give you some free treatments. I'll practice on you this work I've been taught. And they'd say, okay, let's do that. And so I would have people who would volunteer to do the master cleanse, and then I would have people I could practice this new therapy, the VitaFlex. And it was a very good experience for me, because I could watch people in their process of doing the cleanse. And for example, I would give, say, somebody a treatment before they started, and the reflex points on the bottoms of their feet, or just about anywhere, but particularly on their feet, would be, say, their sensitivity level in general was out of from 0 to 10, it was, say, 6, and 6 being, the closer you get to 10, the more uncomfortable it is. And then after 3 days of doing the cleanse, it might now be a 4. And after another 3 days, it might be a 2 or a 3. And after another, by the time they finish the 10th day, that discomfort level could be now a 1 or a 2, and in some places no discomfort at all. Just where they had more long-term problems, would there still be an issue. But people would be saying, gee, that doesn't hurt as much. And I would be saying, I'm actually pressing even harder than I did when I first treated you. And they go, really? And I go, yeah, well, as your body changes, the feet, and there's many areas through the body that reflect the health of the body, but the feet is one of the more specific areas and more effectively utilized to address what's going on in the body. It will show it quite quickly, the changes that are happening in the body. And in fact, sometimes when I'm treating people, and I'll be doing their feet, and there'll be a spot that'll hurt, and they'll go, what is that? And I'll go back and actually try and find that same spot, and it'll disappear. That one reflex point that I did, as I did it, the body immediately changed. I've had people with various aspects of VitaFlex. I've had people who are deaf, have had their hearing come back, and this is in front of audiences, in front of 100 people, I've had people who've stood up and walked away from a wheelchair. I've had people who've limped for 10 years, 15 years, and get up and walk away from a chair without any limp, with their pain gone. Myself, I was demonstrated upon in front of an audience. It was on January 7th, 1980. And my teacher was explaining this technique, and because I had chronic neck pain and neck and shoulder, I had was told I needed to have surgery on my spine, in my neck actually, in C6 or 6 and 7, or 5 and 6, and C3 and 4 to fuse those vertebrae to stop the pain. And in 1980, I did 100 days of the master cleanse, not in a row, but in total. And I had one treatment from him, and he had done that Atlas adjustment, and it's now 35 years later, and my neck is still fine. I get a stiff neck once in a while, or it'll get tight, but it's not like, I could, sometimes I'll show people, I'll stand on my head. If I have neck problems, it would be, at 35 years later, you think it would be probably significantly worse, but it's not. So.
Yeah, except for that one time where you fell down on a bike and you taught somebody how to do. Yeah. I was riding my bike, and I was going downhill, and I had my hands by my side, and a little girl ran out in front of me, and I had to grab the handlebars very quickly, swerve and brake, and I flipped my bike and managed to just clip her. I didn't hit her, like she wasn't hurt. She was knocked down but wasn't hurt, and because I was afraid I might kill her, because when you're going that fast and you hit somebody, they slam to the pavement so hard, they suffer concussion, and they can die. And I went over my handlebars and had gloves on, so my hands were fine, but I hit my head and had road rash on my arms and back and leg, and so that was almost 9 years later. So I had to have somebody redo that Atlas adjustment that was demonstrated upon the many years earlier, and then it was right back into place. Yeah. I like it on your video when you say that VitaFlex is non-chiropractic.
Yeah, it's the pressure points are actually on the collarbone near the AC joint, where the shoulder blade and the collarbone meet. Let me get it. There's one here. Right here, more or less, and then on the other side, it's about here. But that's just a rough approximation. It's a very specific point that has to be pressed with the thumb, and it's a very sudden and quick punch almost, where you push down with your thumb as hard as you can and then kind of roll it forward. And if you hit that exact spot, in most people it's quite sensitive, and some people not. But in fact, yesterday I was, as a hobby, I bake pies, and I baked a couple of pies for a charity, and there were about, I don't know, probably 30 pies at this event, and the woman beside me, her daughter had had a bad fall, and her neck was bothering, and it was quite sore. And so when I said, if you get me a chair, I'll fix that. And she got a chair, and I sat her down and to measure her leg length, and her right leg was about this much shorter than her left leg. Now, her leg wasn't really shorter. It was that her right hip was up like this, and her left hip was down. So it appeared that her leg was shorter, but it was the hips were out of alignment. And her mother said, well, her hip is bothering her, and then her knee bothers her, and her ankle bothers her, and her shoulder bothers. I go, yeah, it's all because of her atlas. And then, so I pressed both points. I did one side and the other, and she found it a little painful. And then she stood up, and she was actually quite almost dizzy. And her mother said, look at her. I said, yes. I said, and sometimes people get dizzy because the change is so dramatic and so quick. And her mother said, how do you feel? And she said, well, I feel straight. I feel straighter. Now, the pain she had in her shoulder did get a little better, but it didn't immediately release. And I said to give me a call today if it didn't clear up. So, I haven't heard back from her yet, so hopefully that was the case. I've done atlas adjustments on airplanes, on boats, in restaurants, on the sidewalk. I've had people who have fallen down and hurt themselves when I'm right there, and I say, I can do something that will help you almost immediately if you're willing to, and these are people who don't know me. And in fact, my daughter, who's going to be coming over a little while for a treatment. She's ready to have a baby, and then she's due in the next 4 or 5 days, so she wants a treatment today. But she used to wrestle, and she actually was a world-class wrestler. She was gold medal winner nationally.
Wow.
And we were at a tournament, and somebody got hurt, and they were on the mat for about at least a half an hour before they moved the person. And when I finally saw who it was, I knew who this. He was about a 10 or 11-year-old boy, and my daughter's coach, that was another one of his athletes. And so they were going to take him to the hospital. So I approached the coach, and I said to him, I said, I might be able to do something for him right away, but I need to, they don't know who I am. They were taking him into another room, and they had sort of pseudo-paramedics there looking after him. And so he brought me in and introduced me to these sort of paramedics, and this child's name was Neil, and I said, Neil, you know who I am. I'm Adia's father. I said, I can do something that might help. And he couldn't turn his neck. His neck was completely rigid. Mm-hmm. And they had him sitting up, and he was in a lot of pain. And I said, I'm going to do something that will probably stop your pain very quickly, but I have to press 2 points on your shoulder, one on each side. And I said, when I press them, it's probably going to be very painful. I said, do you want me to try it? And he said, sure. Or he said, yes. And so his right leg was shorter than his left. Mm-hmm. So I pressed the right side first, mm-hmm. and I gave him, I did it, and then I stepped back. And it was quite painful. In fact, he had tears running. It hurt so much from what I had done. And that's not unusual. So I said to him, I waited about 20 seconds and did the other side. And again, tears ran from the other eye. And I said to him, Neil, I said, turn your head. And he looked again, his look was kind of fearful, like, I don't want to, And I said, go ahead, try. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So he took his head, and he started to turn, and he started to turn, and he started to turn, and he turned it all the way around. And all the way back, and I said, how's your neck? He said, it's good. I said, do you have any other pain? He said, well, I have a headache. So there's specific pressure points, one right here, this is a very specific point, and 2 in the elbow, here and here.
Mm-hmm.
And I did those points, and I said, how's your headache? He said, it's gone. I said, any other pain? He said, well, he had been dropped on his head, and he landed right on the top of his head here, just above the forehead.
Mm-hmm.
And he was bruised there, and I use essential oil, so I took an essential oil and put it there. 20 minutes later, he was on a mat wrestling with another
Wow.
kid. You know, they took him out of the tournament because he was injured, but they never took him to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
He never had any problem after that. They were going to take him to the hospital, and who knows how that may have ended up. So it can be, I mean, I've had people in front of an audience. I had a woman who had severe scoliosis,
Mm-hmm.
and her spine went straight within 2 to 3 seconds.
Wow, that's super.
And this is, you know, something that appears quite miraculous, but it's
Mm-hmm.
the thing is, it'd be like if you came from the 15th century and you saw somebody
Mm-hmm.
driving a car, or flying a plane, or any number of things that we take for granted today, they would think that's magic.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that it's magic or necessarily miraculous, it's knowledge. And knowledge is power. You know,
Yeah.
if you know how to fix something that 1 in 1,000 people or 1 in a million people don't know, that would seem like miraculous or, you know, or wondrous.
Mm-hmm.
When it's, you know, when I travel, that's one of the things I do. When at the end of my talks, I ask for 3 or 4 people to come up to the front of the stage, and I get the people who are in the worst pain, and I ask them what their problem is, and then usually I fix it within 5 or 10 seconds. People who make me work, it can be 3 or 4 minutes. But these are people who've had a condition for sometimes 10 or 15 years,
Mm-hmm.
and people are absolutely, they're just amazed. I said, the thing is, this is the way it's supposed to work. Our bodies can heal themselves if you take the right steps, if you do the right things. But if you always do the thing that made you sick and you continue to do it, you're not going to get any better. So it's in Vitaflex, it's not a new technology.
Mm-hmm.
It predates acupuncture. It comes from Tibet. I think it's, you know, somewhere in the neighborhood of 5,000 years old or so, or, you know, somewhere in that. It could be 3,000 or 4,000 years old, and
Okay, so did Stanley innovate the Vitaflex, or was it taught to him?
well, here's the thing: is that the Master Cleanse he didn't create, in a sense. He just one day wrote it down.
Mm-hmm.
He was sitting. He told me the story. He said, I was sitting down for supper, and he had been looking for a means to. He was using color therapy at that time. It's about 1928 or 19. No, this is 1941, and color therapy took 6 months to heal an ulcer, and so he wanted something that was quicker, and so he just wrote down the Master Cleanse on a piece of paper. And he said 5 minutes later, in his book he said it was the next day, but he said it was like 5 minutes later, because it wouldn't have sounded believable that if he wrote in his book, you know, 5 minutes later somebody came to his house who had an ulcer.
Mm-hmm.
And this man said, somebody told me to come and see you. And he said, I've just been diagnosed with an ulcer, and they tell me if I don't have surgery immediately, that I got 10 days to live, I'll die.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Stanley said, yeah, I can help you. And he said, what can you do? And he handed him this piece of paper, and he said, well, what's this? He said, well, it's a diet. It's called, at that time he called it the lemonade diet, because he didn't know it was the Master Cleanse. And
Mm-hmm.
this guy looked at it and he said, you know, maple syrup, you know, lemon juice, cayenne pepper. He said, I'm not supposed to take cayenne pepper or lemon juice. And Stanley said, well, how long have you had your ulcer? He said, well, for 3 years. He said, have you ever had lemon or cayenne pepper? And he said, never once. He said, well, in 3 years, did it get better or did your ulcer get worse? He said, well, it's worse. He said, well, maybe if you do the opposite, and it makes sense, do the opposite, and maybe the opposite will happen.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, okay. He said, I know. He said, I'll try it. But he said, I know it'll be painful, but I'll still try it. And Stanley said on day 5, this man showed up at his house, and he said, on day 5 now, and he said, I'm feeling good. He said, no pain yet, but any day now. He was still waiting for the pain to show. He came back on day 10 with an X-ray in his hand and showed Stanley the X-ray, and the ulcer was gone.
Wow.
So for many years, the Master Cleanse was used, or the lemonade diet was used to treat ulcers, and then it wasn't for some years that he realized it was actually the Master Cleanse.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Vitaflex was kind of a similar thing, is that he said about 1928 or 1929, he could see in his mind's eye himself doing VitaFlex. And he had never done this, but he could see himself and how the technique worked, and he could see the foot charts and how the points were mapped out on the body. So he started practicing it and became proficient from his own practice. And then, wrote it down. And he was told by a psychic, as I was told, that in a past lifetime he did VitaFlex as a Tibetan monk.
Okay.
And my teacher, who was traveled a lot, said that he met a psychic, a totally different psychic, and the psychic said, "You do some kind of flexing, and that flexing is something you learned as a Tibetan monk." Hi, my daughter just came in. That's all.
That's cool.
So.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because they do have Tibetan massage. I checked to Google it, and they do have Tibetan form of VitaFlex.
I'm not sure. I didn't quite hear all of that you said.
Yeah, they do have a Tibetan VitaFlex.
They do.
Yes, they do.
Well, when
Don't know
Stanley did treat a couple of lamas and possibly the Dalai Lama, and they said we have people in Tibet that do this.
Exactly.
So it's been confirmed. I mean, I actually treated somebody. I did a trade with somebody who was from Poland, and he had been taught Tibetan massage, and he gave me a massage, and I gave him a treatment, and we were amazed at the similarities. You could absolutely see that they were connected, that they were absolutely related. There was very almost identical patterns of that were done in various parts of the body, but they were each unique to themselves, but very similar in places.
Super. Now, when we go to the Atlas adjustment, what exactly happens when we press each one of those points?
Well, they're like reset buttons, and when you activate that point, it's called a piezoelectric effect. It's this mechanical movement. I'm using my thumb, and as I push down on that point in the body, it releases an electrical impulse. Now, the pulse doesn't come from my finger or my thumb; it comes from the body. It's like you can see a switch back here. So if I hit this switch, the lights come on. But I don't touch the light to make the light go on, I touch the switch. So when I touch the switch here, an electrical current goes up to the Atlas. So it's your body now activating the Atlas to realign itself. I don't realign it. It doesn't come from me. It's me accessing your body's own ability to heal itself. And it's just like saying, it's like hitting a remote. When I press the button on the remote, do I actually change the channel? Do I go inside the PVR or the box and electronically do all of that? No. I'm actually just hitting a button. That button releases an infrared signal that activates all of this electrical reaction to make a change. And that electricity didn't come from me. All I did was touch a button. And it's the same thing with this. I touch a button and the body can correct itself. And it also depends on if you're too unhealthy in extreme cases. Like I have people who's, they've got a herniated disc or a bulging disc, they could have a broken vertebra. I can do that for them and it will help them, but it won't give the same kind of results until they've done the cleanse for maybe 2 or 3 weeks. Because doing the cleanse will make them healthy enough that the Atlas adjustment will now work. It'd be like building a great house and putting it on a stack of hay. If your foundation is flimsy, it's having a great house on top of it isn't going to work. You've got to have a foundation on which to plant your house. So if I sort of, in a sense, fix the house, but the foundation isn't ready for it, then you're not getting full value. So I tell people, go on the cleanse. Do the cleanse for 2 weeks. And sometimes it's not even that long. I've had people where I've done an Atlas adjustment and it works, but their pain is not relieved at all. And they go on the cleanse, and I've had people sometimes inside of 3 or 4 days, the pain goes away. In extreme cases, it can take 30 or 40 days. Like if you have like a bulging or herniated disc, it can take that long for your own body to heal that so that the atlas adjustment will actually take effect.
Right, super. Um, so on the atlas's back, you hit the acupressure point for the leg that's shorter first, right?
Well, it's actually in the shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you do the short leg side first and then the long side leg second.
Super. All right. Well, because I know a lot of people listening to this radio program right now want to go back to. Yeah, I did find on the internet where Dr. Wayne Dyer does talk about the master cleanse and how he was on it and everything. Didn't see so much about the results, but so you're the one who started that with him, huh?
Yes, he actually did 20 days in a row.
Super. Yeah, I had to.
And he does it on a regular basis now. Like I see him periodically, and we talk. And
I need to do a show together.
he's people ask me to put them in touch with him, and he's a very private man. He gets hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of requests.
Okay, so let's get this right. So he had leukemia.
He had an acute something or other form of leukemia. He was told that I believe it was like it was untreatable. There was no cure for it.
Okay, what protocol did he use on the master cleanse? He just did the straight up master cleanse like you got in your book, right?
Yeah, he did 40 days or 40. I'm sorry, he did 20 days on the cleanse. I was giving him Vitaflex treatments, and I was also giving him colon lifts. And he was also using essential oil, so I had him using a lot of frankincense.
So he was doing the whole package.
More or less, yes. Yeah.
Okay, because we haven't even got about on the colon cleanse part yet. Super. All right. So we know from the very first beginning of our program, the guy does 40 days after. I can do 40 days on the master cleanse. At the end, I'll be straight to go. Dr. Wire, he also did it. He had a acute form of leukemia. He got on it, and all of a sudden, he doesn't have leukemia anymore. Also, that happened with one of the first people in your video on Vitaflex. He had leukemia. He did it after 28 days with the Vitaflex and with the complete master cleanse. He went to the doctor, checked his blood work. He wasn't okay. So usually just doing doing the Vitaflex and the complete master cleanse alone. Was that the straightforward the protocol? And if so, can you just use the relaxer roller and do the master cleanse?
Well, the relaxer roller is a tool that was invented by Stanley Burroughs that imitates Vitaflex, and it does work quite well. We've only actually been talking about illness on a physical level. And I'm not just a body. I have a mind and spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I work with people, I also have to get them to connect their mind to their body, that they're, you can't hate the world and do the master cleanse and expect to get completely well in 10 days. I get people to start to address their anxiety or their fear or their hate or their loneliness or their regret or resentment, whatever that is, at the same time, to get their body in sync with the mind. And then with the spirit, it's more or less like, are you happy with yourself? Or do you enjoy life? Do you love yourself? Do you get up every day and think, oh, life is wonderful? I was treating this person this was a dentist, and she said every day at school somebody stood up and said, life's a bitch, and then you die. And, she had developed carpal tunnel syndrome, so that her hands were so affected by this that she could barely do her work, and she was afraid of losing her practice. And carpal tunnel syndrome is the seeming injustices in life. And when I started to hear her story, and she didn't even recognize that her story was intimately connected to what she was experiencing in her body. So I had her she did the cleanse for 10 days, and getting some treatments, and then focusing on this mindset to change it, to see that life is good. You have to look look for the good things in life, and the more you look for it, the more you get it. If you complain about things, all you get is more things to complain about. Like it's like doing what I'll do sometimes with people is to have them do a gratitude journal. It's just like, instead of drink lemonade every day, you give gratitude for anything. Like, one of the things I love to give gratitude for is hot water. I mean, you can wash your clothes, you can bathe, you can shower, you can clean anything and everything. I mean, hot water is truly wonderful. Having a vehicle to drive around. I can get out and leave my house, get on this big metal thing, and show up on the complete other side of the world inside of a day. I can go around the world in a day. I mean, that's truly incredible that we can do that with relative ease.
Yes, that's super. So what's the average weight loss on people doing the complete master cleanse anyway?
Well, if people are quite overweight, men typically lose up to 2 pounds a day, and women typically a pound a day. If they're doing quite well, they're likely to lose 1.5 pounds a day. Just because of our hormonal makeup, men are able to lose weight a little more quickly than women.
Okay, that's that.
Now, I have also seen people who are underweight gain weight on the cleanse.
Yeah,
that's it's not usual, but it's not rare.
Yes. On your 3 books, could you, let's see, I'm going over, you got the complete master cleanse, you got beyond the master cleanse, and you have the master cleanse experience. We're going to talk more about the third one. But what are the biggest differences between these books if people looking to bomb?
Well, the complete master cleanse is the book that I suggest people start with at first. That's got about 100 pages about sort of the history and the master cleanse, how and why it works. A lot of people don't understand why it works or how it works or even how to do it. So I go in extensive detail to make that very clear to people. And when people read it, they go, yeah, this all makes sense. This is not a pseudoscience. This is not airy-fairy stuff. This is all, can be verified scientifically. The second book is for people who would say, now that I've done the cleanse and I really want to change my life, what do I do? So the second book is kind of a follow-up. The third book is just about 10 pages taken from the first book, and it's about 12 different people and their experience, and kind of blogging on the master cleanse. I would suggest that you if you can find it in a bookstore, look at it and read a few pages and decide whether you want that third book or not. It's if people are asking for one book, I say the one you're looking at right now, the Complete Master Cleanse, that's the one to start with. Yes. And that will give you enough information to change your life, if that's what you're looking for. Like, many people are quite surprised at how impactful this 10 days can be. I know it, for myself, it completely changed my life. Mm-hmm. And I've never regretted it ever, one single day. And myself right now, I've probably done the Master Cleanse since 1979, about 1,500 days. That's 1,500 days. Of course, not in a row, but through the last 35 years. I do it on a regular basis. And I try and do it about 40 days a year. And sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on my traveling. And and it's such a simple thing, and it's not expensive. Mm-hmm, you just need to find lemons and maple syrup and cayenne pepper, and water is pretty widely available.
It is.
You need to take a laxative, and and if you're going to do it, you should invest, it would be best if you invest in my book, which is, in the United States, it's like $15. It is hardly a major investment for something that could, and very likely, change your life and your health dramatically. But the key to all of this is doing it properly. And if you go on the internet and look there to try and find it, you're not going to do it right. There's so much misinformation. I have people who read my book, then they go online and start looking, and then they call me and they say, I'm all confused. And I said, did I not say in my book to not go online and look? I go, yeah, I know. I go, and you did, didn't you? And you don't understand anything. You're all confused. Yes, I said. So I told you not to do it, but you did it anyways. And then I'll spend 10 minutes with them and explain to them what it is that they're confused about. Or I'll talk to their hairdresser.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say, your hairdressers, have they ever done the master cleanse? They go, no. Have they ever treated anybody in the master? They go, no. Well, I said, I've done it 3 years of my life, and I've treated thousands and thousands and thousands of people. So they should treat you on the master cleanse, and I'm going to start cutting your hair right now. Does that make sense to you?
No.
Well, no. I go, okay, then don't listen to them.
Yeah.
Listen to somebody who has experience. It'd be different if somebody talked to me and I was using in a wheelchair and I had diabetes and I had arthritis and my teeth were falling out.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the case.
Right. The reason I like all three of these books, Tom, is because your first one, it shows you completely how to do it. But I'm also going to get come out the pocket by the second one also, because it tells you how to do it the whole year round. And I think a lot of problem, because my sister and a lot of people I know, they do their little 10 days or whatever on the master cleanse, but they never put it as a regular part of their as their lifestyle. They do the 10 days, they lose a few weights, but then they go back to their regular eating habits and everything, and they put the weight back on again. And I like your third book because it has even more stories, or the third book because it has even more stories and stuff of people what to expect while they're doing the day-to-day thing, but so you can actually relate to the people. It was like that one lady, she said, that one lady you was telling us about who had a problem having babies, and what happened with that again?
Well, this woman actually, because my phone number is in my book,
Mm-hmm.
she had been trying to get pregnant for some time and was going to a fertility clinic, and it wasn't working. And so she bought my book and she talked to her doctor, who was a woman, and told the doctor she was going to go on the master cleanse. And her doctor advised her that that was not a good idea, that she shouldn't do it. And she said, well, I'm doing it anyways. So she did the cleanse and did it for 10 days. And it worked remarkably well. It's actually the last person in the book, in the 12th story.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, well, I want to tell you a little bit about what happened. And I said, yeah, sure. And she said, well, I passed several pounds of mucus while on the cleanse. I go, well, geez, I said, I lost probably 4 or 5 pounds of mucus. And she said, Tom, not from my rectum. And I went, what do you mean not? Because that's you're passing all this stuff from your digestive system.
Mm-hmm.
She said, I passed this from my vagina. I
Mm-hmm.
went, oh. And she said, I was pregnant within a week, I believe, after finishing the cleanse. Here she's been doing the fertility clinic for I don't know how long. She probably says in the story that she wrote. And within a week she gets pregnant. She did miscarry, but then she got pregnant very quickly again and then had a child.
Mm-hmm.
So here, and when this all happened, and, she told her doctor, she said her doctor said to her, the only reason you got pregnant was because you did the master cleanse.
Mm-hmm.
And I've met many people, or I've worked with several women who are infertile, and they can't get pregnant. I put them on the master cleanse. I do some prolapsed colon lifts, the technique to lift the colon back into place, and that's in the book as well. There's some pictures there.
Mm-hmm.
That's in the VitaFlex section, and it's a technique that lifts the colon off the uterus, ovaries, and bladder. That's on page 120. On my book, I can show that to you. So you can see how it's down kind of like a horseshoe on the one side.
Mm-hmm.
And what that is the colon is prolapsed or fallen down. And for women, it's like their uterus, ovaries, and bladder, and their fallopian tubes are kind of pressed upon or folded or kinked or whatever, then they can't get pregnant. And the colon lift is a technique that's done on a slant board. And you work on the abdominal area. You work through the skin. It's, like some people say, how do you do it? They think I'm going to do it literally through the rectum. And I go, no.
Right.
It's a manipulation on the abdominal area.
Yeah. Tom, how long have you had your website? Is this the same way your website looked like 10, 15 years ago?
It's been changed over the last few years.
Yeah, you used to have this whole thing on infertility, didn't you?
Well, there is actually, if you go to articles, there's an article on fertility that was published in a women's magazine.
Mm-hmm.
If you click on that, and there's those same diagrams.
Yeah. Let me see. Because I remember looking at your website years ago, and you had this whole thing on infertility and stuff. So, okay, this might be it.
And it's, it's all fairly, again, simple. It's very logical that if all your organs are out of place, and you've got something that's got 2 or 3 pounds of old waste in it that's toxic, and you've got to remember that this waste that's in your bowel is very acid, and that acid inflames the colon wall. So the colon wall, which is a membrane, and what that membrane does is allow moisture to pass through, because when your undigested food matter comes into the colon, it's quite liquidy, it's runny. So your bowel has to absorb that liquid and firm it up so that your body can then pass it as a solid stool. And if your colon gets inflamed, those pores, or that process of moisture passing through, now those pores enlarge, in a sense, to the point where yeasts, molds, funguses, viruses, and bacteria pass through the colon into your bloodstream. So now you're leaking waste basically into your body, poisoning it. And if it's leaking directly out into, like women will get endometriosis, cysts, tumors, infertility, yeast infections, bladder infections, they go on the master cleanse. I do a couple of colon lifts, and it just goes away as if by magic. And it's not magic; it's sensible. If you've got all that waste leaching into your body and poisoning those organs, and you can stop that, at least for a time, the body will recover. So it's. And the thing is that 10 days is not the magic number. The magic, that's the minimal amount of time.
Exactly.
When people have really toxic colons, they might need 40 or 50 or 60 days of the master cleanse in a row. Now, you don't have to do it all in a row, but sometimes people will do 10 days once a month. And after 6 or 8 months, their colon will be clean. And people go, well, God, that's so much. I go, well, you might live another 35 or 40 years if you do this. Is that too much? And not just live sickly, but to live healthily.
That is so true. Now, the one other thing in your book on the complete master cleanse, and I try to tell a lot of people this, is that you can lose weight, but the number one thing that we have going on our colon, and we only got like a few minutes before we hit an hour, but we still can keep talking a little bit. But we got parasites. How does parasites relate with the master cleanse?
Well, I believe that everybody has parasites. And when I say parasites, I'm talking not 1 or 2 and a little bit. I'm talking literally pounds that live in your digestive system. And they get out of your colon and get into your bloodstream and can get into various organs. In fact, I was talking to a man who had liver cancer. And he got to know several physicians or doctors that did surgery. And he said a lot of times when we do removal of tumors from people's livers, they're not tumors, they're actually parasites living inside the liver, eating the liver out from inside out. And so you've got these parasites that move into various parts of the body, and they usually start in the colon and accumulate there and then start to spread out. And one of the things they do is they build firewalls. And these firewalls are to protect them from the herbs or things that you may take to poison them. And when I first started doing the master cleanse, it was, I think, I'm trying to remember now, it was day 33, I think, of the master cleanse, not in a row, but in total, in a very short period of time. I was on 33 days, and I saw something in the toilet, and I went, what is that? And it was actually part of a parasite. It was about this long. And so every day I was on the master cleanse from then, a piece would come out. And it was after about, I didn't do anything to kill them. I didn't do any herbs or anything, and I just continued to do the master cleanse. And it was somewhere near day 90-something. I can't even remember. And I woke up about 4 in the morning and had to go to the bathroom, and the whole rest of the parasite finally came out. But if you have this much parasite coming out for 60 days, think how long that parasite was over 60 days to get that much. I mean, I've had people when they come in. I've had people come to my home and do what's called an advanced cleanse, and we've actually fished out parasites. And you can't see, but it's like this, across, a parasite, like 18 inches. And that's not the full parasite. That's not head nor tail. That's just a piece of it that was in the toilet. So people can carry, as I said, pounds, big ones, little ones, fat ones, skinny ones, stiff ones, microscopic,
Yeah, Tom,
tables.
what got me, Tom, though, is the fact is that you've been doing the master cleanse for so long, and you did that 10-day Kalina, whatever that you did,
Advanced cleanse with a Kalima board, yeah.
and you still had parasites.
Well, the thing is that you're exposed to parasites almost on a daily basis. They're around everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And what they do, the more that you attack them, which I've done lots of stuff to attack them, the sneakier they get. They build walls to hide behind. And they had built such a defense that I needed something. You kind of need TNT or dynamite to blast away, or or else you got to be on the master cleanse. If I would have done probably 40 days in a row of the master cleanse, it would have finally shredded that or ripped that apart. But this advanced cleanse, you're putting a lot of really toxic herbs up your colon that kill parasites.
Okay.
And I do color therapy with that, and so you're doing color. The color yellow kills parasites. And then I also have a zapper, an electronic machine that you hold in your hands that sends a signal through your body to kill parasites.
Wow, that's super.
And then I also use essential oils, which are toxic or poisonous.
Super.
So,
Actually, we got some questions. From Skillet 1969. She wonders, or this person wonders, how soon will people notice results? Results that will make me want to continue for just a day or 3 on the Master Cleanse.
I mean, I've had people, one day has made a major shift. Some people it takes 3 or 4. Usually it should be at least 3 or 4 days to see something, because it can take some people 3 days to just have their body shift into a cleansing process. So if it just shifts into that in 3 days, and then you go, why am I not miraculously better? Your body is, just because it's so toxic, it's so slow to react, that if you stay a whole nother week, if you do 10 days, you've actually only been cleansing for 7. You've just been preparing for the first 3 days. I tell people, don't do it for 3 days and then stop. Do it for 10 days.
What's the average weight loss for 10 days?
Well, women 10 pounds, men 20 pounds.
Wow, that's cool. That's super. Y'all hear that? On the average for the Master Cleanse diet, just for the average 10 days, you can lose how much again?
10 days for women and 20 days for men.
Yeah, 10 pounds for 10 days, 10 pounds for women, 20 pounds 10 days for men. So that's
Now,
go ahead.
if they're exercising, it makes a big difference. Like if they're even just walking, if they go out and walk for a half an hour every day, it makes a big difference. And the other thing is, what many people do to lose weight is they drink less lemonade. So they drink 5 or 6 glasses. Guess what happens? They don't lose weight. You have to drink at least 8 or 10 glasses a day to really lose weight.
Okay.
If you don't drink enough lemonade, your body thinks it's starving, so it goes into weight, retention. It's trying to, so your metabolism slows down, you get more tired, your body temperature drops. But if you drink more lemonade, your metabolism goes up. There's this tipping point where then your metabolic rate is up, but you're consuming less calories. So this is where the weight loss happens. Your metabolism is higher than normal, but you're consuming less calories than normal. But if you go below a certain level, like if you go to a point where your body thinks it's starving, then everything shuts down and then you don't lose weight. It sounds not logical until you really understand the process and how your body works. Because when your body is in starvation mode, it shuts down. When you're on the Master Cleanse, you should have more energy, you should have more strength, and your mind should be clear, everything should function better.
And that's what it says in your book on the Cleansing Journal. It says number of 10-ounce lemonade drinks should average 6 to 12 10-ounce glasses a day, right?
Yeah, but I say that's what Stanley says in his book. But if people want to lose weight, I suggest at least 8 to 10.
8 to 10.
I,
Hear that,
I had a
everyone.
client. I had a client who came to visit me, and she was doing the cleanse, and she was losing a pound and a half a day.
Mm-hmm.
And she was so excited, so she thought she would lose more. So she started drinking less lemonade and went to a tablespoon of maple syrup per glass. And she called me and she said, "Oh, I'm tired. I stopped losing weight and I'm cold." And I said, "How many glasses are you drinking?" "Oh, about 6 glasses a day." "How much maple syrup?" "Oh, a tablespoon." I said, "Well, what were you doing before?" "Oh, I was drinking about 10 glasses a day and 2 tablespoons." And I said, "And you were losing weight, weren't you?" "Yeah." I go, "Well, you go back to that and you go back to losing weight." So she came for a treatment, and I covered all of that. And then she went back, it was in Vancouver, and she went back to that and started losing a pound and a half a day again.
Wow. And if she kept on doing that, she keep on continuously. She'll keep on losing about a pound and a half a day until she gets down to her normal size, the size she
Well,
should be.
as she gets closer to her goal weight, the weight loss slows down.
Mm-hmm. That
You
is so
know,
true.
it would come to a pound a day and then maybe a half a pound a day as she gets closer to that.
Okay, now as we go to that, is there anything in color therapy that we can use to help to accelerate for weight loss?
Well, the color lemon is the color that is released into your body when you drink lemonade
Mm-hmm.
energetically. So the color lemon, which is not yellow, not the color of the skin of a lemon, but more the color of a lime,
Mm-hmm.
that lime green, that color will help you. It helps with weight loss, and it also is good for a sort of a positive mental attitude. I'll show you my living room.
Mm-hmm.
The color. Can you see the color that I have? It's
Okay.
all. That's lemon. That's my living room.
That's good. Now, one thing I was thinking is, could you put the lamp on you and sleep with it like that?
Absolutely. In fact, I have a timer on my lamp.
Exactly.
It goes on for 1 hour, it shuts off for 2, goes on for an hour, shuts off for 2, on for an hour, off for 2. So if you sleep for 7 hours, you can get 3 applications of color.
Is this on your to check out the new Vital Light? Does that have a timer on it?
Yep, that's the color lamp, the Vitalite. Yeah.
It has a timer on it as well?
No, you have to buy your own.
Okay. All right. So, how would you attach a timer to this?
You just simply plug your plug from the lamp into the timer and then plug the timer into the wall. The timer is a little electronic gadget about this big. It just plugs into the wall. And you can plug any electronic device into it, and you can program it to go on for 10 minutes or for 5 minutes or for an hour or for 5 hours.
Super. But it'd have to be the same color light each time because there's no way to change it while we're sleeping, right?
Yeah, you would leave it on that same frequency.
Yeah, because the whole thing about it is that for doing the treatments, usually you switch up colors, right?
Well, you never usually just do one color for 1 hour. Like when you start, say, for cancer, leukemia, and tumors, you start and you do about 3 hours of green, then you do 5 hours of magenta. I think it's 3 lemon, 3 green, or no, 3 yellow, and then back to green and magenta. And so when I say 3 of green, that's 3 1-hour applications. And you do 5 of magenta, that's 5 1-hour applications with at least 2 hours or more in between. And because you have a job, you may not be able to be, doing color in the middle of the day. So you have
Exactly.
to do it in the evening or at night. So it could take you sometimes a week or even 2 or 3 weeks to go through a complete schedule to treat yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I hook this up to a timer. Sleep. Do you have to can this light touch any part of your body, or will you have to just be completely exposed in order to absorb it?
It works best the more skin you expose yourself to. It can be on the front, it can be on the back, but it doesn't have to be exposed. Like people will say, well, I hurt my knee. Do I shine it on my knee? Well, you can, but it would work better if you shot it on your upper body because you've got more skin exposure there.
So, but then people, when they had the leukemia, were they using this, or most of the people who got rid of leukemia didn't?
The first 2 people I worked with, they were using the Master Cleanse and using a color lamp at the same time.
Okay. All right. So that you think that's part of essential for people who got something like leukemia or something would be the color
When I'm
therapy.
working with people who are very critically ill, I suggest they use the color lamp. They get Vitaflex, or at least use the roller, do the master cleanse. I have them read Louise Hay's work, so I get them doing some affirmations. I also use, generally suggest a number of essential oils. And depending on their condition, could be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different essential oils.
Okay, well, also, seven, we're gonna have to go for another show because we got so much more information. But I want to make sure I address these people here. Um, Skillet 1969. Malik, I have been thinking for doing a cleanse for a while. Brent Detton. You think as the master cleanse is actually one of the number one, if not the cheapest, cleansing programs to be using, Tom?
Well, it's the cleanse of all cleanses. There were no cleanses around other than people would do water fasting. And the
Mm-hmm.
water fast is not a cleanse per se. And the master cleanse is not a fast. A fast means you don't eat, you only consume water. And I believe you get better nutrition on the master cleanse than when you eat. So all these other diets that are around they're versions or adaptations, or many people think something that works even better. The thing is, you cannot properly cleanse your body until you almost virtually stop consuming salt. You have to stop consuming solid food. And if
Exactly.
you do juicing like I've been on the lemonade and drank a glass of carrot juice, and my energy level goes from up here to down almost momentarily, and my stomach gets heavy and I don't feel well. Lemonade is the cleanse of all cleanses, and that's why it is the master cleanse. I mean, if
Okay.
you want to go on a
Okay.
juice diet, it's not a juice fast, it's not a juice cleanse, it's a juice diet. That's
Mm-hmm.
fine. I have
Mm-hmm.
no issues with that.
Mm-hmm.
But you
Mm-hmm.
cannot compare the master cleanse to any juice diet around. I've had I had a guy who came to my house. He said, I've done 25 different cleansing diets, but he'd never done the master cleanse. I go, you've never done a cleanse, you're doing all these other things.
Mm-hmm.
He said, well, why would I do this? I said, because it's the only one that really works. So he bought a book, and he came back 2 weeks later. He said, I will never, ever do another cleanse again but the master cleanse. He said, it worked better, I felt better, I could work, and it didn't cost me anything. Why would I do anything? I go, exactly. Why would you do anything else? I mean, if you want to do a juice diet, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't have any issues about any
Mm-hmm.
program that you do. But if somebody said to me, Tom, I have cancer, or I have leukemia, or I have diabetes, would you suggest this or this or this? I would say the only thing I would use, if that were me, would be the master cleanse. I would not consider anything else. I have treated so many people who have done 25 different things and they're sick and
Mm-hmm.
nothing has worked, and they say to me, well, why will that work? What's so great about that? I said, you haven't done it yet, have you? Well, no. I said, just do it, and then you'll tell me why it worked, because it works.
Mm-hmm.
But it has to be done properly. I would say 50 to 75% of the people that I talk to who have done the cleanse before they read my book
Mm-hmm.
never did it right, ever. And they do it 2 or 3 times and go, it's doesn't work, it's
Mm-hmm.
stupid. And I go, well, yeah, that's right, because you didn't do the master cleanse. You did something that you thought was the master cleanse, and
Wow.
it's so simple, so easy, that everybody's got to change it and fix it and make it better. And it's just, I get tired of hearing how somebody makes it better. My book is not a new master cleanse. It's the original master cleanse explained so that people understand how to do it. And Stanley's instructions, many people misread or misinterpret or misunderstand them, and I've written it out so most people actually can follow it as the
Mm-hmm.
way he originally intended it to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd like to make this clear to people that this isn't, I didn't invent this. I've just did it, and I think that it will help just about anybody and everybody if done properly. And I just want to make that available to anybody and everybody. So all those other programs that are out there, they're fine.
Mm-hmm.
But do the master cleanse once, and then try 3 or 4 other ones, and then make your own judgment. That's the
Okay.
easiest thing to do. It's like find out for yourself, but give everyone an honest shot. And you might do a juice cleanse and say, oh, I like that better. And if you do, that's fine. I'm okay with that.
All right, super. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close this up, Tom.
Okay.
It's been wonderful having you here for the show. You up for doing another show, a couple more shows in the future?
Sure, absolutely. This is great.
We have we haven't went over essential oils. We haven't. There's a lot of stuff. The prolapse thing, what you do with the colon and the fingers. I mean, it's a lot of stuff that we didn't actually go over the show, but we've covered a lot today. Of as far as information that can help people with leukemia. We found out that we can exercise. We can exercise, go to work, just live off the cleanse for a while, and still get in shape. And in some cases, even better than what we presently are, just on doing the lemonade diet or the master cleanse. We also found out, I had to look back, that syrup is anti-cancerous and anti-diabetic. I never knew that. That's going to be something to be looking forward to. Woman doing 10 days can lose as much as 10 pounds. A guy doing 10 days on this master cleanse can lose up to 20 pounds. And that's if you're exercising. Along with that. So we have covered a lot of information on this show today. I'm looking forward to doing, like I said, at least 2-3 more shows. And you also have a workshop that you actually put on, and we're going to actually be talking about that on future shows. Everyone out there, if you want more information on Tom and what he does, please on the internet pull up VitaGym or VitaGym Enterprises. Pull up his website. On there, you'll be able to find out his information, who he is, links, contact, and all that other type of stuff. I've been looking over this man's work for years. Okay, I've been looking over. Tom, I've been looking at your stuff for years. Every time I ask somebody about the master cleanse, I automatically tell them to go to your website and learn more stuff about that. So it's kind of like I've read your information, and it's it's been wonderful meeting you. And it's like you got so much information, and we can like chit chat for like hours and things. But my producer, he's looking at me, so.
And I've got to run here. My daughter's here. I've got to give her a treatment.
Yeah, I got you. All right, everyone. This is Malik L. Train, host of Health Awareness Talk, with my person I'm interviewing today, Mr. Tom Woloshyn. And let's go ahead and end up. All y'all have a wonderful week and be blessed.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir.